Did you ever meet Bob Dylan?
I met Bob Dylan, and I was just telling this young man here who was singing his style of music so good. I've never heard anybody sing Bob's style of music quite like him. You did really good. His name again is Dave Kirby?
No, Babe.
Okay, tell me his name again.
His name is Babe Curry.
Babe Curry, B-A-B-E.
Is that your real name?
Yes. You ever been to Abilene?
And it's B-A-B-E like Ruth, right? Like Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
You were supposed to change your name. Nobody uses their real name on this show.
And is Curry, as in Indian curry, C-U-R-R-Y?
Yeah.
Well, you're a very talented young man, and George Hamilton VI's mother agrees, and George Hamilton V's. I'm getting confused now.
Well, let's move on to the next question. I saw the notes. This question is going to be very difficult. Well, you did meet Bob Dylan. We'll move past that.
I met Bob Dylan, and you know what he said to me?
What?
He said, "Hey, I got some of your records in my collection." And so I told the mother of the fifth and the grandmother of the sixth that Bob Dylan said that he had some of my records in his collection. And you know what she said? And she's here today so she could testify to this. She said he was kidding.
And how about what you said to Bob Dylan when you walked up to him on the baseball field in Sevierville?
I said, you're my favorite singer in the history of the world. And so I really mean that. That young fella sings his music, his style of music, closer than anybody I ever heard. That's very good.
And his name is Babe Curry.
Babe Curry. Remember that name because you'll be hearing more out of him.
Now this next question that George VI is going to ask you is really one of the most dangerous questions you've ever received.
Okay.
Who's the biggest jerk on the Opry?
Let's move on to the next question.
There ain't no jerks on the Opry. The Grand Ole Opry is the greatest country music show in the world. It's where bluegrass music was born. Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys.
What about this show? This is actually a great show.
This is a wonderful show. This is my first time to this radio show, and I'm very impressed. And so is my lovely wife, Tink, back there. By the way, she was my talent scout on the Arthur Godfrey Talent Scout Contest on October 15th, 1956. She was. How about a hand for Tink?
Here's another question that's extremely difficult.
Have you ever seen George Jones drunk?
Have I ever seen George Jones drunk?
George Jones.
Oh, George Jones. George Jones. I'm a little hard of hearing. I've got 2 hearing aids, and I still don't hear well. No, I haven't ever seen George Jones drunk, and I don't think he has been for many, many years because thanks to his lovely wife, Nancy, I'd like to pay tribute to her. When Nancy Jones came on the scene and really sort of took George under her wings, as they say, she got him straight, and it's been years and years since anybody saw George drunk or anybody even said anything about it because he's been straight for a long time. And some people call him the greatest living country singer, and he lives right here in Franklin. So we should be very proud of George Jones. I think he's doing great and singing great and straight as an arrow, they say.
Now you live in Franklin also. And you were going to give us just a short history of how many country music people that you knew or know at the Opry lived in Franklin. You knew Sam and Kirk McGee.
Yes, I met Sam and Kirk McGee and the Crook brothers. I think they used to live out here in Williamson County. And, of course, Joe Babcock of the Babcocks, the singing group. And Joe, of course, was on Hee Haw. All those years he was in the Cowboy Quartet. Remember that on Hee Haw?
What about Carl and Pearl Butler?
Carl and Pearl Butler were the first people to really extend a helping hand to Patsy Cline. They helped her a lot when she first came to Nashville. They lived in Franklin, and they were members of the Grand Ole Opry. And the first time I heard Pete Drake play steel guitar was with Carl and Pearl on the Opry. And John D. Loudermilk, who was producing my records when I first moved here, was so impressed with Pete Drake that he asked him to play on my first Nashville recording sessions. Pete Drake went on to become a legend in the world of music, the talking steel guitar.
So probably that's one of the reasons we do the show here at Handy Hardware in Franklin, Tennessee, because there is so much country music history that came from right here.
Oh, yeah.
Years ago, it used to be a long way to the Opry, and they made their music here and were discovered on the Opry, where you remember you've been there now for 50...
This is my 52nd year, and I just was thinking about Carl and Goldie, Carl Smith,
Yeah.
and Goldie Hill Smith. They lived here as well. And of course there are lots and lots of others. Alan Jackson, I don't know if he still lives here, but he did for a while. And, Amy Grant. And
Also Babe Curry. Babe Curry.
that's right, Babe Curry. And you know, I asked him if he knew Forever Young, and he said that he loved that song, but he didn't know it real well. So I think maybe you and I ought to sing it for him at some point.
Well, we probably sing that right after this last question from George the Sixth.
And maybe Babe will come up and sing the choruses with us. He probably knows the chorus anyway.
Will you get mad at me if I don't name my kid George the Seventh?
No, not really, because my wife and I, your grandmother and I, tried to stop the numbers before you were born and before he was born. When your daddy was born, we were going to name him something else. You know, I don't know if you ever knew this story, but Tink Hamilton, my lovely wife, and I decided we were going to call a halt to all these numbers. And my mother kicked up such a fuss, your grandmother, she kicked up such a fuss. She said, oh, you're going to break the line. Carry on the tradition, you know, name him George. And so we finally caved in just to shut her up. And we weren't going to name your daddy George, and then you wouldn't have been the sixth, I guess. So we named him George, and the rest is history, but mainly just to keep my mother and your grandmother happy. Or your great-grandmother. Boy, it gets confusing.
So you will get mad at me
Yeah, I
if
think
I
he's gonna
name
get
him
mad,
George
yeah.
the Seventh?
No, I won't get mad. If you want to name him anything, you want to. What was it Johnny Cash said in that song about, you know, the one where his daddy had named him?
Boy named Sue.
Boy named Sue.
Boy named Sue. They named him Sue. He said, if I have a son, I'm going to name him anything, George or Bill, whatever, anything but Sue. No, it won't bother me, George. If you have my permission, and I assume Tink's permission to name your son anything you want to. You got a right anyhow.
Now that was a
Thank you for that
special
interesting interview.
special feature of our show. It is called Questions and Answers with George the Sixth. How about that? A big hand for George the Sixth. We're going to follow that up.